Right, something a little bit different than building and stripping rods. I'm going to just show how to take the anti-reverse mechanism out of a Abu 506 close face fishing reel. I've actually been meaning to make this video for ages. I know when I first sort of learned how to do this, there wasn't a whole lot of information available online. So I found like one YouTube video, which was actually by a Japanese guy, which I sort of managed to sort of decipher, and at least from that I could figure out what I needed to do. So see if we could sort of give some information back, right? So these reels, originally no anti-reverse. The whole sort of concept was all around you could use the drag if you needed to play a fish, whereas one of the things that we used to prefer to do in the sort of the earlier days of coarse fishing was we like to backwind to play larger fish rather than use the clutch, the drag, which I think was down to the quality of reels sort of in older times, let's say. I mean, nowadays, if I sort of just quickly detour, I mean, this is a Shimano Naski reel, which is a pretty sort of midpoint fixed spool reel. Absolutely no anti-reverse on it whatsoever. And the argument is twofold. First of all, the quality of the clutch is good enough to where you don't need to backwind. And I actually asked somebody about this when I was living in Japan. Actually, I asked somebody that was a representative of Shimano that when I went to a big sort of a tackle store in Tokyo, and he actually said to me that the logic is that the whole reel is just firmly sealed so that no water, and especially salt water, can get into the internals. Yeah, so that's their logic behind it. Right or wrong, I don't know. Personally, I prefer to backwind, so I'm going to show you how to enable that by removing this piece which is called the anti-reverse pawl. I don't actually know what that means, but the anti-reverse pawl. So what have I got in front of me? I've got the reel. The main tools that I'm going to use is going to be a flat ended screwdriver and also a 14mm spanner, which is to undo one piece inside the reel. And also I have a printout of the schematic, the sort of parts breakdown of the reel, which I can use as a reference, and I'll sort of talk a bit about that as I go through it. Just in case, because I've never opened this reel up, I don't know what's inside it. I've got a pair of sort of needle nose pliers, just in case I need to get in to free up a couple of the little tiny sort of circlips or E-clips as they're known, and sort of like a jeweler's electrician screwdriver as well, again kind of the same thing. And then finally I've got some baby wipes, just in case I get grease everywhere, because I just don't know what's going to be inside it, right? Okay, so getting into this reel, this is actually the second time that I've recorded this. Is the first time I just couldn't get good pictures of the kind of internals of the reel, so I have had this one apart now, so just to come clean. So what are we going to do? So first thing, take the cowl off, take the whatever this bit is called, bow housing off, take the spool off, and so anti-reverse is actually a mechanism which is inside this side of the reel. So we've got to go at it from this side, take everything out, and then take the anti-reverse pawl, as it's called, out, and then put it all back together again. So first of all, undo this one here. So sort of talk a little bit about the internals of this reel. So wind the handle. Wind the handle. As I'm winding the handle, this wheel is going round. See if we can get better light. And there is actually underneath this plastic piece, there's like I don't know what you would call it, a piece of metal, like a stud poking up, sits inside this, which, because of the fact that this is going around, that's what's sending this piece up and down, right? So first thing I want to do, and this is probably the most difficult part, is I need to actually remove this spool holder, which is what is going up and down, because that is what makes the spool go up and down. Yeah. So this is actually held on to shafts going through. Top of these shafts, there are two circlips, or I've heard them called like E-clips or something, because they look like the letter E, and these need to come out, and that's pretty much the crux of taking the reel apart, pretty much. So best way I've found to take them out, flat screwdriver, and literally push on the side and kind of flick them out, and hopefully they don't go too far. There's one, don't know where did that go. No, it's fallen in the back, I think. Doesn't matter, we'll get at it in a minute. And then the other one as well. That came out a lot quicker. And then, oh, that one didn't come out, my mistake. There's the one on the left. That one, sorry. Let's just get that out properly. Right, so that's now out. Don't know where it went, but I'll find it in a second. So now what we call it, the carrier comes out, yeah. So then there's my missing clip. I knew it would be somewhere. Right, next thing to do is I need to take this shaft out. This shaft here, it's kind of multiple pieces, but it goes through this plastic piece or nylon piece through here, yeah. So we take this out by actually undoing it on the top here. So there is actually this like a locking washer kind of mechanism. So what we need to do is, it's always folded up, or it should be folded up against one of the flat edges. So flat screwdriver, just push it down. Yeah, don't need to be too vicious. It's not thick or anything, and be careful. Don't want screwdriver in your hand, and you don't want screwdriver sort of damaging the reel housing either. Now, screwdriver, spanner 14mm goes on, and I can loosen this piece, and it comes undone, and this will pull this entire shaft out. You'll actually see that it will pull this cog away from the main kind of primary drive as well. So that sorts it out. I'm not going to dismantle this because I'm really focusing just on the anti-reverse. I'm not sort of stripping it down to service it. I'll think about doing that in a separate video. So this is the nylon piece. Pull it out. This is the sort of the metal stud that I mentioned, and that metal stud sits in that recess on the nylon piece, and that's what makes it go up and down. 3 holes, 2, which would have been what that spool carrier sits onto, and then that middle one is what that shaft goes into. Yeah. Right, so now we can see the drive. I'm turning the handle, we can see it goes around. So now I take the handle off by undoing the drag. That's just pretty easy. Comes off. This is actually the only bearing in the entire reel. So now, no handle, and I can push the entire drive or let it all come out. Yeah. So main case, this is a bush, I think recessed and got this hole in there, so this would be sort of to help with lubrication. And this piece here is the anti-reverse pawl, and this is what stops it from going backwards. So quickly explain, inside the case, yep, that little stud that's poking up in the corner is what that hooks onto. So when you look at a 506M and you see that little mark just there, well, the other side of that is actually that little stud, which is what that hooks onto. And how it actually works is it's spinning round when the wheels go when it's going round, and it goes back, and it will actually hit one of these tabs here. Yeah, so literally it comes off. Yeah, it's like 2 pieces of copper that slides on to that. That's it. It's and it really is. That's what stops it from backwinding. So take that off. That can go there, and we can put it back together again. So first thing I'm going to do is this can go in either side, but I'm going to put this bush back in again just to emphasize. If I'm really just focusing on putting this thing together, right? Oil, maybe grease, it really depends on, I think, a little bit on how you're using the reel. If you're just kind of fishing without it, you know, minimal chance of it getting dunked in water, sand, grit, whatever, oil is probably okay. I tend to put a little bit of grease in there, knowing that it's just kind of creating a seal. I've taken these apart where they've literally been full of grit. You could feel it when you've been winding, and that will cause wear here. But right, this goes back in, and you need to make sure that all of the pieces, let's take it out again because this catches a few out. This is the drag mechanism, and well, actually this is the clicker, which would be for the drag. And that piece in there is actually the single drag washer, so that's what creates the friction, right? So it all needs to sit down flush with a bit of a spring, and this catches me out sometimes where it doesn't go, it's not been put together flush. So just be aware, goes in, and if you can push down and you can kind of feel the spring. The spring is actually caused by the clicker mechanism from the drag, but this is good, right? Bushes in. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the handle back together, because that will hold this mechanism in place. So I've had many of these reels apart, and I've seen the sequence that this goes back together changed, but this is the schematic behind me. Washer, bearing, there's a washer in there, then there's the handle, there is a washer in there, trust me. Then there's this wavy washer. Sometimes this wavy washer has got like a little bit of, the only way I could describe it is like a little bit of a nipple on it. It seems to depend on what era or what version, I don't know, and that would sit into this recess here. Don't have it, doesn't matter. Goes in, tighten up the drag. I'm going to tighten it up all the way. Right, I can wind forward, I can wind backwards, right? Got no internals, but I can wind it. Right, next thing we need to do, whoops, is put this shaft back in. So we start off this piece. Again, I'm not servicing. If I was servicing, I'd want grease in this recess, just a dab. This goes on that, let's show that again. This nipple needs to, or stud needs to be in this recess, yeah, like so. I showed you the holes, the middle hole, this goes through into the middle hole, still on that recess piece, sorry, still on the this is still on that stud. So now I need to start to tighten this up. You'll know, do not, just be conscious about, if it doesn't go in easily, something's crossed. If it's not going in easily and it's crossed, it's almost certainly because this inner piece here is not flush. Take it apart, put it back in again. Do not force it. You will cross thread this, then the casing is no good. Yeah, you've basically screwed up the casing. So it will go in with you. It will go in finger tight. Right, what we're aiming for is to tighten this up. There are two prongs on this locking washer, which was under at the very base, right? Two prongs. Either side of this, whatever you want to call it, part of the casting, right? Prong. The prongs are facing down, not up. Spanner, 14mm. I'm tightening this up. I'm not tightening this up overly tight. It doesn't need to be. Oops, it's just tight. Yeah, it's tight enough. I'm still turning the handle. There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah. And now I just need to fold this up. Screwdriver underneath, flick it, twist, just do it and then push it with the tip of the screwdriver. Yeah, don't get vicious with it. Again, what you don't want to be doing is putting the screwdriver through your finger. You don't want to be damaging the casing, right? This is now locked. This is good. Yeah. Next thing, let's put that spool carrier. It's in. It's through the two holes here. Got to get those little washers on, sorry, little circlips on. What I do, I've got my thumb on the carrier pushing it up. I'm left-handed, so you know you're going to be doing this the opposite way. I'm holding it, and then I'm pulling the circlip on that. I'm going to take it out. This groove is where the circlip or the E-clip or whatever needs to snap into, yeah? In, I'm holding it with my thumb, they're poking out, I've got one. It's on there, I'm pushing it on with my fingernail. It's not all the way on, and I'm just going to push it with the screwdriver, and that's it. I kind of felt it snap in place, so I know that's on. Repeat it with the next one. Okay, push it with my fingernail. Yeah. That's it. It's in. Right? I'm winding. It feels okay. Spool carrier's going up and down. More importantly, I can back wind. Yeah. Final thing. Put the side casing back on. There's two cutouts for it, two tabs into the tabs, push it in. It goes in easy. If it doesn't go in easy, probably you need to pull this screw out to give it enough room to kind of, yeah, just let it guide in. There we go. It's biting, finger tightening, feels alright. Going to tighten up the screwdriver. Got to remember this casing is kind of like pot metal cast alloy. It's just got to be conscious about not over tightening anything, or in my case about being a bit of a dick with a wrong sized screwdriver. But okay, that's it. Spool back on, no line, but spool. There we go, it's done. 506M, forwards, backwards, no problems, yeah? And there's the reverse pawl that I've taken out. Anyway, that's it. I hope that's been useful. Like I said in my introduction, I just couldn't find anywhere with this information sort of available in a sort of video form, so hopefully this is useful. You know, please, you know, give me your comments, feel free to like. More promotion of my channel just helps with giving me motivation as much as anything else, and of course feel free to subscribe if you want to as well.